Should be ready to go now. Here we go.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Monday afternoon. Another edition of the NBA Report. CP the franchise here, and I got a special guest, man. He covers the Dallas Mavericks as a color analyst for Dallas Mavericks TV. Longtime Maverick, special Nick. He's our guy, Derek Harper, in the building. On today's show, we're going to react to Game 2 of the NBA Finals. OKC Thunder dominating the Pacers and tying the series at 1 apiece. Plus, we got to get Harp's take on the Knicks season and off-season ahead, big off-season ahead for the New York Knicks as they look for their next coach and look to get back to the promised land after falling just 2 games short of the NBA Finals. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Another edition of the NBA Report. Okay. Hart, welcome back, man. How you doing,
Thank you, brother. How you doing, CP?
Hey, I'm fully recovered after a tough, Knicks playoffs. As you know, it's hard to get over that stuff, man, but I'm okay now. Now I'm just watching basketball and now enjoying these finals, man. What do you think so far?
Surprisingly, it's been very entertaining, if you would, CP. I know Rick Carlisle a little bit and how supreme of a coach that he is. And I think that's what has made this thing a little bit more interesting. Obviously, if you look at the numbers on both sides of the ball coming in, Oklahoma, I mean, let's face it, they had a huge advantage. Great defensive team, a lot of guys that can really, be disruptive on the defensive side of the ball. They're not a slouch either because they had a guy in Shea that averaged 30 points a game. On the offensive side, I always question their bench somewhat.
Yeah.
But if you look at last night's game, that was the difference. Those guys came off the bench and really gave them a shot in the arm offensively. So we got 1-1. Pacers did what they had to do. And now on Wednesday night, you go back to a very difficult place to play in Indiana.
Yeah, no question about it. And, when you mention SGA, I mean, the MVP is so smooth, so superb. And, I'm not so sure what I was more impressed by last night. His overall floor game, I spoke to, college coach Tom Crean. He always talks about contact balance. And watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just absorb that contact like it's not even there and still step into his mid-range, get into the paint and execute, it was beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I know he's a slender build, if you would, Case, but I just think he's stronger. He's wiry strong than people really give him credit for. The guy can, to your point, take bumps and bump people off of him, and then he has the length to shoot right over the top of guys, and I think that's his biggest weapon when he gets in that paint. And it's so untraditional, right? Everybody's talking about threes. He can shoot threes. I think made about 33% during the regular season. But he wants to get to that paint. He gets there, and it's absolutely nothing the defenders can do. They're at his mercy once he uses that body and that rise above everybody else and knocks down shots.
Yeah, no question. And then, combine that with, I thought his defense last night was really good. He comes up with 4 steals last night. He's getting into the passing lanes. His help defense was very good. 4 steals and a block last night. Seems like he had that chip on his shoulder after crunch time in game 1. Got a little bit dicey in trying to contain Haliburton and those guys.
Absolutely. I think when you talk his defense, if you're a Thunder, if you're on that roster, you can defend. I mean, you don't play the kind of defense that these guys have played all year and not be able to defend. He's deceivingly quick with his hands and using his feet, as Perk would say, using those puppies. But I just like what he is as a player on both sides of the ball. And he puts a lot of pressure on teams night in and night out. Just a special kind of player. And I thought he should have won MVP last year.
Me too.
I really would have given him a vote if I had one, but they gave it to the big guy in Denver, and you can't argue that either because he was sensational too. But, Shea is he's a new school player. I guarantee you, as much as the league is about 3-pointers, I guarantee there are going to be some guys that try to mock what he does as a player and just getting in the paint and simply dominating as an offensive player.
Mid-range assassin, man. He
Yes,
gets it
sir.
going on the inside, and it was just impressive to watch. He was smooth
You know,
last night.
he reminds you of DeRozan a little bit,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
DeMar, he's always trying to get in the lane. I think Shea has a little more size. I think he's a little more crafty than DeRozan, but they have similar type games, which are very difficult to contain.
Yeah, no question about it. And, I thought one of the big differences between game 1 and game 2, OKC's defense was still there, but it was the offense, especially the bench production, that picked up. And they really needed that. Yes, they did get better performances from Jalen Williams. He had 19. Yes. Chet had 15, more efficiency from both of those guys. But, man, you had Caruso and Aaron Wiggins combined for 38 points. Yeah. Caruso, his motor is just unbelievable, and I also thought his defense against Siakam was really good last night as well.
Underrated as far as I'm concerned, Caruso. I look at him all year. I watched him a whole lot. Just the kind of guy that you don't have to run plays for. He knows how to play off of Shea and play off of the rest of the offensive guys on that roster. But he does a little bit of everything. He's a winning player, is what you can plug him anywhere in the league, and you're going to get the same production. His instinct is to just go and play.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a preconceived mindset that he's going to take this amount of shots. So that whatever the team needs him to do, he's able to do it. And it's basically built on his IQ. He's a very smart basketball player, not going to turn it over. When he attacks, he's going to attack. And the closeouts for the Pacers are going to have to be better against him because they're slowly creeping out to close out on him. And by then, that trigger is off, and he's knocked down a three on you. So he's been a big difference in the playoffs in general, not just the championship series that started the other day, but he's helped them out a lot. I've seen a lot of nights where everybody seemed a little stagnant.
Yeah,
he's found a way to come in and be impactful as a player.
He did a great job just giving him that motor, as you said, just unlimited motor and energy. And I thought Caruso had a phenomenal game. I always when they picked him up and traded for him, I said that is that's a turn the corner type of move. That is a move you want to make as a championship caliber team. So he was great.
And he doesn't turn it over either, Case. You know what I mean? That's important, man. Every little thing counts when you're in the finals. Turnovers, all that stuff adds up. And he's one of those guys that he's so sure of his game, he doesn't make many mistakes. And I like that about him as well.
Yeah, no question about it. And then, with Aaron Wiggins, there's always talk when you talk about bench production and role play production, how, guys need to have a rhythm and know when they're going to come in so they can be productive. Not Aaron Wiggins, because some nights he might not play. He might play 5 minutes one night, and then he'll have a night like last night where he scored 5 threes, 20 points off the bench, and was absolutely 18 points rather off the bench.
Yeah.
5 of 8 from downtown. He was phenomenal, man.
I completely concur with you on that. I think that's why I give the edge a little bit to OKC against the Pacers moving forward, because they do have guys that are so capable of popping up and having big nights for you. The balance from this team last night, if they continue to have that, CP, I don't think the Pacers can do anything with Oklahoma, which, it's just what it is. When they get production from all those different spots, man, you're not gonna contain those guys, especially when you couple the fact that you have the most valuable player that is averaging 30+ points in this particular series. He's been phenomenal offensively, but more efficient last night. I just think his supporting cast is the key to everything that the Thunder are trying to do, and they will be successful if it continues, point blank.
Yeah, no question about it. And, I also think, one of the things I was looking at in this series to see could it continue was the transition game, because you had the Pacers coming in as I think either number 1 or number 2 in transition offense.
You're right.
And the Thunder countering that with the number 1 transition defense. The defense has been winning out. The Pacers have scored 10 and 9 points respectively in that fast break. Thunder's transition defense has been on point, man.
That's who they are. We can talk about Williams, we can talk about Shea, Holmgren, we can talk about all those guys, but every coach I've ever played for, especially Chuck Daly in particular, when I was in Orlando, didn't care about offense. His offense was pick and roll. Even when he was in Detroit, his offense, Joe, Isaiah, Rick Mahorn, Lambeer, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. That's what they run. But defensively is where I think they catch teams off guard. I think that's what makes this series so intriguing because it's kind of like best defense against the best offense. And I don't know about you, Case, but every now and then I think that running, never slowing down, I think that takes a toll on you sometimes. And I think down the stretch of games is when to pay attention to whether or not the Pacers are able to creep in some easy buckets. Haliburton has been hounded a lot. And I think it's taking a toll on him, even though they were able to creep a game in game one. I still think if the Thunder are still able to get back defensively, take away some of those easy buckets that the Pacers live off of as a team, I think OKC is going to be in control when this thing is headed back to Oklahoma.
Yeah, the Pacers, a team who, as I said, capitalizes in transition, capitalizes off of turnovers, where you're playing a much more fundamentally sound team in both of those regards. It's going to be a lot harder, but that's a great segue into Haliburton because it's such an interesting discussion because on one hand, we can talk about how clutch he is, but I thought going into this series, they're going to need him to be a much more aggressive scorer to have a shot at this. What do you think?
You know what? That's a great point, Casey. You know what I think about Haliburton? I think he's really solid. He's on his way to being a superstar in this league. People, what difference does it make whether or not you're a star or a superstar? All of these different things. I'm not gonna get into it like that, but the head of the snake is Haliburton, correct?
Yes.
I mean, we would all agree that he makes this team go. But what I think you forget sometimes about him, he's not a natural scorer. He's a set up, look for other guys, get everybody else involved type of a guard. Now, he can blow up and go for 30 on you any single night, but not against OKC. You go back and look at these two teams against each other in the past, they have stifled him as a defense. They've really done well against him, slowed him down. And when you're not used to looking for your offense, that's going to be detrimental to you as a player. He's not one of those guys that come out and shake and bake and like Jalen Brunson, for example. When the game starts, you know he's going to get buckets.
Right.
You don't ever know how he's going to get it, but he's going to be looking to go every single time. And Haliburton is just not one of those guys. A terrific player. I like watching him play because he does, to your point, he's a very clutch guy down the stretch. But you know how hard it is, man, to not look at the bucket, and he does it a lot of nights. Not look at the bucket the first three quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, you find something to get your team going like he did in game one.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. I take my hat off to him, and I don't know if it works in the Pacers' favor or not, but he's going to have to be ultra aggressive. I'm not talking about just coming out, getting others involved and thinking about shooting. He's going to have to go in. I think you'll see that in game 3 on Wednesday. I think he'll definitely make that adjustment. It's a very important adjustment that the Pacers and Haliburton has to make.
Yeah, I think he will. He has a tendency to do that, especially when the team needs it the most. So I do expect him to turn it up a notch in game 3. But as you said, it kind of runs counter to his nature because I'm watching this game and as a point guard, he's making all the right plays, right?
Yes.
He's taking what the defense is giving him. He's setting his guys up, and sometimes they might knock it down, sometimes not. But I just think in this series, where because the Thunder are so great individually and as a team defense, you need your two best players to be on point, and that is Haliburton and Siakam. They got to be better.
Siakam said that he needs to be better, and I respect that, stepping up, owning what you are as a player. It's not going to be easy for them, even though they're going back to Indiana. I just think pound for pound, I think OKC is a better team.
Yeah.
Now, can Rick Carlisle do some things to jump the game up a little bit, change the momentum a little bit? He can do that. The question becomes whether or not they can find a way to get consistent offense against the Pacers. That's gonna. I mean, against Oklahoma City, that's gonna be the key.
Yeah.
Is whether or not they can get their offense going in Indiana against, like you just said, arguably one of the better defense ever to be put together in the Thunder.
Yeah, no question. And so we'll see, game 2, it was Wiggins and Caruso as the role players who were stars in their role. We'll see what happens when this thing shifts to Indiana. Is it going to be Obi Toppin? Is it going to be Benedict Mathurin? Who's going to help the Pacers off the bench?
They play a little better at their place, and offense, the way they play, it travels very well. On the road, that's how they were able to creep the game 1. Because they put a lot of pressure on you. That's mental and physical pressure. When you're trying to get back, you got to point, you got to talk, you got to communicate, in the open court. And it'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to game 3.
Yeah. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP the Franchise here with our guy, Derek Harper, man. Throw a number 11 or a number 12 in the chat. We might have some Mavs fans in here. So throw a number 11 or number 12 in the chat to salute our guy, Harp. Hey,
CP, thank you. I'm number 12, man. Yeah. Jalen Brunson has number 11. I was scared to come to New York, man. Because Jalen has taken that number and turned it into something else, man. I'm watching and... A friend of mine says, "Man, what are you going to do?" Because Jalen has taken number 11 and almost turned it into a championship. I say, "Hey, more power to him. If he's gonna do that, kudos to him." For sure. Do you still get nostalgia like around the finals time? Do you channel back to your playing days, especially when the playoffs and the finals come up, or you kind of like, you know what, that was a chapter in my life, and you in the present? How do you take that? No, man. It was probably the biggest chapter in my life because I clearly had a chance to win a championship. So playoff basketball to me is popcorn, sitting back with the guys, man, hanging out, really enjoying the game of basketball because you can easily say, Case, that it's the same, but it's not. Everything is upgraded to something else, and you really can't afford to. I always use the phrase, you can't be getting ready in the playoffs. You got to be ready, from tip to tip. You got to be ready to go out and do whatever it is your job is. But I'm like nobody. I'm no different from anybody else. I think everybody is all over the playoffs right now. Especially it's champion time to crown a champion.
Sure.
And people are interested in it.
Yeah, also during game 2, they had a press conference presenting Don Nelson with the Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, he did have a cup of tea in New York here. Didn't work out as well. But what do you think overall, Don Nelson and his legacy in terms of his impact on the game?
Well, he's one of the greatest. He's like Frank Sinatra. He did it his way. It's that untraditional basketball where you pan pick and roll, or Nelly just wanted penetration and kick. And that's why so many guys love playing for him. The only coach, as I give you a little nugget, the only coach that I've ever played for that took me out for passing up shots. Wouldn't you like to be out there on the floor when a guy takes you out if you don't take a shot?
Yeah.
It gives you crazy confidence. And run DM 3 or when those guys were running up and down, Chris Mullin, New York guy, of course, Chris Webber, Tim Hardaway, they were difficult to guard just because of his style and his idea of what offense was. It was a lot of people have tried it, and that's what the Pacers are banking on right now: spreading the floor, penetration, kicking to open guys. The open guys, after all of the penetration, they have the pressure to make the shots, and Indiana did a little bit in game 1. They didn't last night. That's why we're at 1-1.
And Rick Carlisle was at that press conference, and he gave Don Nelson a lot of credit and saying that, they wouldn't be where they are today without him. What do you make of Rick Carlisle? I feel like he's another coach who doesn't really get his just due in the league. But for people like you that have seen him, you kind of understand it. What makes Rick Carlisle a good coach?
Rick doesn't care. Offensively, he doesn't care about props, is what I'm going to say. He cares about winning. that's just the kind of guy that he is. Won a lot as a Celtic, so he's used to winning games. But I don't think there's anybody better offensively. He'll put you in position to be successful. You don't ever see him if he's yelling at his players. It's because they're not putting forth the effort. They're giving up easy buckets. It's never a player that plays for Rick Carlisle that feels like he can't go out on the floor and be himself. That's where he's a lot like Nelly. And I'm telling you, man, I know you've played a lot of basketball, Case, but when you're freed up to be who you are as a player, you play better. You play with more confidence. You play with more freedom, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's where he and Nelly are similar. And that's how they've had so much success. You're free to go play the game. Because I always tell people, coaches aren't there. They players have to make the plays when it's all said and done. Surely a coach can draw something up that he perceived as something fantastic, but it doesn't always work like that because the player is not able to execute it and get it done. So I think both those guys, Nelly being honored last night, of course, and Rick following in his footsteps, doing some of the same things.
Oh, there you go, man. Well said. And let's segue here to your last form. Well, the team that you sparked a big memory in the fan base, and that is the New York Knicks.
Yes, sir.
Who Rick Carlisle and the Pacers dispatched in 6 games. What did you make of that series, man, and the way things went?
Well, once the Mavericks are eliminated, I'm all New York. So I was a little disappointed because they got so close once again and had their opportunities. I'm a Thibodeau guy. I love him. Think he's a great coach. But sometimes you have to go outside of who you are sometimes. And I thought Tibbs waited a little bit too late in doing so. I thought if he had made those little subtle adjustments, using a little more bench, if you would, I think they would have been in better position. But once Jason Tatum got hurt, I thought the Knicks would get there. Played well enough in spots, surprisingly played extremely well on the road, which is very difficult to do in the playoffs. But, Karl Anthony Towns, I think if he had to do things over, he would probably do a few things a little bit different. Man, people don't understand. It's hard as hell, man, to win this time of year. And it's hard, Case, to be consistent every single night. People talk about Jalen being a score-first offensive point guard. He held the ball too much, this and that. You weren't saying that during the year when they were winning all those games that they were winning. So, it's give and take in the game. And I think New York gave themselves a shot. And that's all you can do. I'm always rooting for them. I don't know who replaces Tom for this year coming up, but hopefully it'll be somebody that can get a little bit more out of that talented team that they have, because I think they do have a lot of talent when you look at it. Things just got a little bit discombobulated, I think, for them at the wrong time. And as a result, the Pacers took advantage of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And it's so interesting the way the needle moved and the expectation shifted throughout the season, because coming into the season, it's like, okay, this team they're built to beat Boston. Then they can't beat the elite teams. They go 0 for like 11 between Boston, Cleveland, and the Cavaliers. Then it's like, all right, they're probably a second-round exit. But wait a second. Then they get past Boston, and it's like, all right, now you got to get to the finals or else this is a bust. It's so crazy that roller coaster of expectations, man.
Yes, sir. It is, and that's what it is. Like in football case, you pick your team, I pick mine. You got the Giants, I got the Jets. The one thing we don't take in consideration, if somebody picks up a fumble and takes it right all the way back to the end zone, right? It's just like an injury. You don't anticipate somebody getting hurt. But when they do, it changes the whole dynamic of what's going on. And injuries has a little bit to do with that. But, Knicks can hold their heads up, man. I saw
Yeah,
all the guys. I was coming to the finals. Had they made it to the finals, I
yeah,
had plans to get there. But good luck next year. That's all you can hope for. But
yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think anybody should be disappointed. That's why I was surprised when they let Thibodeau go, because I considered it a successful season, getting all the way to the conference finals.
Yeah, no question about it, man. And yeah, I call it the Legends Lounge, man. I was at those home games, and
Oh, I'm
Patrick's
sure.
there. We're waving the towels. I'm going crazy, Starks and all that. I'm like, man, we need Harper in the mix. The crowd
That's
has to
wild.
give Harp his flowers. And
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah, hopefully next year, man. Hopefully
Yeah,
next
hopefully,
playoffs,
hopefully
you
there
make
is.
it there,
You
God
know,
willing.
one thing I'll say about next year, it's not guaranteed you get back.
No, it is
I'll
not.
never forget. We started after Indiana, after Patrick missed the little bunny. We started talking about next year, and it never came. You can't take it for granted that you're going to get back. So hopefully the Knicks will have a successful season,
Yeah,
play the Mavericks in the finals, and we'll automatically be there
yeah.
if that's the case.
For sure, for sure. Now, as the Knicks are out there and they're looking for their next head coach, there's talks out there that they are interested in the Dallas Mavericks coach, Jason
Uh-huh.
Kidd, one of the greatest point guards to ever play, former Knick as well,
Absolutely.
and led his Mavericks to the NBA Finals just last year.
Yeah.
What? It's not clear on whether or not the sides will talk or if he'll get there. But if he does, what are the qualities in Jason Kidd that you would like, for this Knicks team?
A player's coach allows guys to be themselves. And I think that's what success is as a coach now, is removing your ego. He has zero ego. And I give Jason Kidd a lot of credit for the development of Jalen Brunson, because I really think that playing under J Kidd, Jalen really learned and grew as a point guard. He was already good, 2 championships in college, all of those things. But it's something about playing under the kind of greatness that Jason Kidd is. I mean, this dude, he thinks the game like I've never seen a player think the game. And I just thought that he did a terrific job under Jason, learning the little nuances of the game, and it helped Jalen to be prepared even more for coming to the Big Apple, and his heroics speak for themselves since he's been there.
Yeah, and Jalen on previous podcasts has given Jason Kidd a lot of credit for
Yes,
his
sir.
development and his growth, and so it'll be interesting to see if they make that move. But I think ultimately the front office thought process is someone is more of a player coach, a
Yeah,
bit more collaborative in nature, and
yeah.
who's a bit more
It just
relatable
seemed
as
like
well.
Tibb was doing a lot. You got to delegate responsibility a lot of times as a coach in the NBA. That's why you hire assistants. You got to listen to them. You got to believe and have faith in what they're telling you, and sometimes it makes a difference. So, I'm not happy that Tibbs is out of there, but as well as I know, Case, the beat goes on once changes takes place.
Yeah, it's tough business, man. You can never unpack your bags anyway, whether you're a coach or a player, Harp. And it seems like now
you better not.
yeah, it seems like now it's very quick. That lack of patience is very quick.
It's so
Man.
weird. It's quiet after the finals. Then the only thing you're looking forward to is what I guess the draft
Yeah,
is coming up, and trades, free agency, things of that nature. So who knows what next year will look like for a lot of places.
yeah, for sure. And as we segue to the draft, by all accounts, looks like the Dallas Mavericks will be drafting Cooper Flagg with the number one pick. Have you done any homework on Flagg? Have you taken a look? What do you
I
think
watched
so
him
far?
all year.
Okay.
I mean, everybody follows Duke.
Yeah.
They have a mystique about their college, and people want to know what's going on with him. The thing I'll give him, and there'll be a learning curve. You can't expect a kid that young. Go back over the last 5 years, say, CP. How many players have taken the league by storm their first year? Wemby had a superb
Sure.
rookie year. Other than that, I really can't think of guys that have really. So my point is, it's going to take some time. for him to develop. But I think the skill set is there, the size is there, the intellect is there as a player. And I think he'll help the Mavericks, provided he stays here, signs here, and be a Maverick. But I think our big questions here are simple and plain. The Mavericks need to be healthy.
Healthy.
Yeah, for him to have the kind of impact that everybody's expecting him to have, because playing with greatness clearly would give him an advantage. AD, Kyrie, when you're playing with those kind of guys, you're kind of the third, fourth guy. And I think he has enough skill to dominate from that standpoint. So we'll see how it plays out. But I just think when you talk draft, man, you got to get the right piece, somebody that fits your style of play, somebody that you're going to allow to grow, make some mistakes as you're growing, and you can find a couple of diamonds in the rough sometimes.
Yeah, no question about it. So it'll be interesting to see. As you said, we'll see what happens when Kyrie recovers from that ACL injury. Yes. Anthony Davis,
which is a toughie, man.
Yeah, tough. That's tough, man.
That's a tough injury, man. I don't know anybody that has come back from it, Casey, and been the same guy. And we know Kyrie is when he's healthy, one of the best point guards ever to play. But that little injury, I really hope that he takes his time, in getting back to himself, and just that he doesn't skip a beat, because I saw Kyrie from afar all of his career. But when you get a chance to watch him up close and personal, you're talking about dynamic. He takes the case of just being a dynamic contributor on the floor.
Yeah. Well said there, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. We got a comment here from Michael Powell. He says, I enjoyed watching Harp go against those Laker teams of Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy. What were your favorite memories with those battles, man?
I don't know if it's a great memory, but all I can think when I started talking about the Lakers, if it wasn't for them, I probably would have played for a lot more championships. They were a nemesis for us. You're talking about what, 3 Hall of Fames, and possibly 4 one day. Yeah. No, 4, because Coop just got in to the Hall of Fame. If I'm not correct, he got in, so that they had 4 Hall of Famers on that team back then, and it was so hard to get around them. I mean, Kareem created a problem. Magic was a problem. James Worthy, a guy you don't hear a lot from and about, but one of the most underrated players, all forwards ever to play in this league, just fit what the Lakers were about so well. Showtime Lakers were up and down the court with Magic in the middle, looking at you and then passing to me. Magic, the no-look stuff is what EJ was all about, man. So I'm not surprised that they won so many championships, and we just couldn't get by them. We were tied. I remember at halftime one year, I said, this is the game. This is the game. We're going to beat them today. To go to the finals never happened because of their greatness and their dominance in those years.
Legendary team, man. And now in today's NBA, hey, a lot of people looking at the Thunder as potentially that team that can keep it together and keep growing, one of the youngest teams to ever make it to the finals. And the way the salary cap stuff is working, they may be well positioned to keep it going.
Yeah, I think they will. I don't see. They're very patient with their players too. You don't have to be in a rush to get things where you want to get them. Sam Presti has done a absolute phenomenal job in building that franchise to where it is now. He probably has 20,000 picks left.
Yeah,
he has so many first-round picks, second-round picks. He's been very, very cunning in building that thing, and he's taken his time, and it's paying off now for the Thunder. Kudos to them, small market or not.
Hot Dorito in the chat says, ask Harp, what does he think Brunson should work on this offseason? Jalen Brunson, Captain Clutch, had some heroic fourth quarters for the Knicks all season into the playoffs, man. That game winner against Detroit was something spectacular. But what do you think, Harp? Because as you said, he is now that the allure has kind of worn off, if you will, and expectations in New York. Now they want to say, hey, he's got to pass the ball, he's got to distribute. What do you think?
It's an interesting debate and conversation. We went through a period where everything was about point guards. Dame, Haliburton, we were just talking about. Everybody, for a little stretch there, we're talking about scoring point guards. And Jalen is certainly that. I think the personnel will help him to grow as a player. Put some different people around him, some different pieces around him could change all he needs to change. I mean, surely you want him to change and, average 10 assists, but that's not predicated on just him.
Yeah.
It's predicated on guys making shots, running the floor, doing different things. It's so many intangibles to basketball that you can't just rely on him to come out and do what he does. Think about it like this case. Even though Brunson is a shoot-first point guard, where would they be without him, though?
That's right.
What would they be doing if he wasn't averaging 27 points, 5-6 rebounds a game and assists? They wouldn't be where they got. So, and I understand the question. It's an excellent question too, but I guess I'll say you'd rather have him averaging 27 than not to have him, and you weren't winning games. That's the question. That's the thing with Shea. What he does, Case, doesn't interrupt. I heard somebody say this, and I thought it was King. So even though he averages 30 points a game, it doesn't disrupt what they are offensively.
True. It's true.
That's what you want to hear. That's what you want. And I don't know if JB interrupts what other guys do, but I know the game and I can feel the game. I can feel one of the things as a point guard you got to know is how to involve everybody else. When to go, when to slow down. Gus Williams told me that my rookie year in the NBA. He said, Derek, you're going to be really good in this league, but you got to slow down. You can't play at one pace all the time. I think that'll help Brunson as well. Just slow down a tad. And he's a very patient offensive guy, but a lot of things, it's predicated on a lot of different things, not just him passing the basketball. It's a lot of different things that have an offensive-minded coach might even be the difference for JB being a different player. So we'll see.
That's what I'm hoping for. Someone, again, not a knock on Tibbs, but someone who can open up this offense a little bit more. They made the investments for Towns. They made it for Bridges. I want to see if there's another coach that can take this group to another level with a different style.
I think that's going to be key. I really do for the Knicks moving forward because Tibbs didn't do a bad job offensively. Those guys just played, but I saw a lot of nights. Well, Towns was a little frustrated because he wanted the basketball, and I get that. As a big that's averaged 20-plus points your whole career, you do want the basketball. So I think they have to come up with some strategic ideas on how to play those two guys together. OG is a guy I promise you will do anything you ask him to do, but is capable of scoring the basketball as well. So it takes time. It's going to take a little time, but I think they'll figure it out.
How about the fit? He's a guy you saw in Phoenix prior to being traded to the Nets. How about the season that McCall had? Ups and downs. Had a little bit trouble adjusting with his role. Had some bright spots, especially when Brunson went out with the injury. And I thought he had some bright spots in the playoffs, but still needed a little bit more from him. What do you think about McCall?
You know what? Just not consistent enough this year. And give him a pass. I think McCall can really play the game. His first thought is to defend. He's a great defender. Makes things very difficult for offensive players. Another year with his homie and JB, I think is going to help him. But man, when you don't make it, I think a lot of times you can outthink yourself. Case everybody's like, oh, you got to make changes. You got to do this. You got to do that. The only thing you got to do right now is find a coach. And hopefully that coach is suitable enough for your franchise and can get you over the hump. You could help you to win 4 or 5 games. That's a big deal. So, I think Bridges is not a guy you want to go playing around with because those 3-and-D guys are very difficult to find when they're as good as he is. I looked at his stats the other day. He averaged 17 points this year for the Knicks. That's respectable, in this league. It's hard to do that. So if he can give you that, and the Knicks can be better defensively. Tibbs used to be a defensive-minded coach, period. And then all of a sudden, the Knicks started scoring 125 points. So he made an adjustment. He changed things up a little bit. Hopefully, you can find that balance this coming season to get you over the hump. I mean, you were right there.
Yeah,
so
right there.
Don't have to. It's not the end of the world. You have to be patient. Sometimes is the best move you can make.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, it was good to hear that you were in the same boat as us, wallowing in the pain as we were 2 games away from the NBA Finals. It was painful, Harp. We went on a tremendous ride with this team, as you know, a la 94. But, man, the crash is much harder when they lose, man.
Hey, man, I felt the energy at the Garden watching the games on television and really talked to a bunch of people about trying to get to New York. I really felt like I was going to go if they were in the finals right now. That would be a no-brainer. But, sometimes we want everything. We want, it's like apple pie and cherry pie, blueberry pie. You want all the pies, right? So it was an interesting year, to say the least, for the Knicks.
Yeah, no question, man. What's the off-season plan for you? Anything special?
I'm gonna get out of here and take a little vacation. Go hang out on the ocean somewhere. Not sure yet where, but may try to make it out to Vegas. That's always a fun time to watch the young up-and-coming players out there trying to find their way as players. I always enjoy that I called a couple of games out there for TNT, and that was fun. But just gonna enjoy life, man. Just kick back and be grateful and thankful for what we're able to do, because we're not working, guys.
Yeah.
We're just talking about our love.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
And thankful that I get a chance to, man.
Likewise, man. Well, listen, man, as one of my heroes from the 90s days, I'm thankful for you to give us the time today, man. Always appreciate our conversations. And
same here.
Yeah, have a great Father's Day to you, man.
You do the same. You're one of my favorite people, man. I appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time again, Harp.
Be blessed, man.
All right. That was our guy. Salute to everybody in the chat. The great Derek Harper, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. That's my guy, man. That's my guy. Shout out to Harp, one of my heroes from those days, man. And moments like this is just one of those, like he said, where you are very appreciative of what you do. Who never in my wildest dreams would I think that 30 years later, we be talking about the game and reminiscing about the old days. And Harper's a frequent guest on Knicks Fan TV, and now he's here on the NBA Report. Always gives us the time. So I don't even remember how we first connected, man. But in terms of getting on for the content, but like I said, man, it's always a humbling experience and conversation when he's on here, because like I said, this is one of my guys, man. 94, Harper's good. When they got Harper, I was like, oh my God, this guy's great. He's tough. He's ferocious. Should have won the MVP in 94. But as he said, all good things must come to an end. And unfortunately, they didn't get the chip. So anyway, salute to everybody in the chat. I'm not done. I'm gonna grab Dexter Henry. Let's talk about this Knicks coaching search over on the Knicks Fan TV side of the house. For the NBA Report, we will be back live after Game 3, so we'll be back live on Thursday recapping Game 3. But for you Knicks Fan TV guys, we're going to set up another show on Knicks Fan TV and talk about this Knicks head coaching search, because things are getting a little interesting right now, man. All right, so thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Hey, we're trying to grow the NBA Report as well, man, so make sure you're hitting the like button, you're hitting the share button, subscribing to the channel. Also know that the NBA Report is available on all podcast platforms. So make sure you guys are clicking the links in the video description. And as I said, like, share, subscribe. We're trying to grow this back up and get more consistent on this side of the house. All right, so we'll see you guys on the Knicks Fan TV side on a little bit. And NBA Report, guys, we'll see you on Thursday. Peace.